Welcome back, folks, to the Get a Grip on Lighting podcast. On today's show, we have Scott and Cory Schneider. That's right, Lighting Unlimited, hot in Arizona. First, let's talk about Scott, the senior. Was a veteran of the Chicago electrical supply industry for several years and moved out to Arizona in the 70s to start an electrical distributor with his brother. In 1989, he started Lighting Unlimited as a lighting-only distributor. He built it to 4 locations through the Phoenix metro area. He's currently the chairman of the board, apparently. And of course, Cory Schneider, who is not unfamiliar to Get a Grip on Lighting listeners. He's been on the program a couple times. He has a BS in optical engineering from the University of Arizona. And Cory joined his father, Scott, at Lighting Unlimited in 2008. He took on a leadership role in 2014 and received his LC from the NCQLP in 2017. He was president of the National Association of Innovative Lighting Distributors in 2018, and he's now the VP of the Phoenix chapter of the Illuminating Engineering Society. Very active he is, that Cory Schneider, so he is. But before we go there, Greg, we got to go to Light Efficient Design. That's right, led-llc.com. Sucker, what do you got?
So a lot of lighting distributors, including the three of us on this call here, three being the companies that we represent, are looking at EV chargers. That's something that's been talked about, and we're trying to figure out an angle for it. And I think we might have one now with Light Efficient Design. They have the Breeze EV, and what they're doing is differently than the others. Is they're actually partnering with distribution. They're not going to sell direct. I'm finding that out as I'm out in the field. A lot of these EV chargers are selling it direct, so they're cutting you out of the equation. Light Efficient Design is not doing that. They have level 2 chargers, which means it's compatible with every electrical vehicle out there, and you can mix and match the components, so it's easy to set up and replace components down the line. And it's quick shipping, made in the U.S., and it offers an additional revenue stream for your customers. You can tell them that they can now have a vending machine for power by giving EV chargers out. So the Breeze EV by Light Efficient Design, I think we finally have it, lighting distributors. That's our ticket.
Ooh, that sounds pretty wild. I looked into it. It's always like, the manufacturer makes all the money and the distributor gets 5%, and then you got to go figure out how to install it. That's not how distribution works, sucker. You got to let us take a piece of the action. We go figure out the market for you. That's how it goes. That's how the lighting industry has worked for so long. So go to led-llc.com to get your charger on. And of course, the National Association of Innovative Lighting Distributors, where lighting means business, driving lighting innovation, all these great taglines. We're getting together September 13th in Dallas at the Market Center there. Check it out. And of course, LS Evolve. You got to put your people through that. But for right now, we got Scott and Cory Schneider. What's up, guys?
Not much. How you doing?
I want to get this chairman of the board thing settled. How did all that happen, Scott?
Well, I was president for many years, like 30 years, and then I got kicked upstairs by my son.
Same old story, eh?
Yeah.
And how did that happen, Cory, and from your perspective?
I just kept moving up, and he had nowhere to go, so he went up to the top.
Can't get above the chairman of the board. You're the top dog now, Scott. Way to go.
Chairman Emeritus, I think we're calling him now.
Chairman Emeritus. Okay.
He's
Nice.
the chief golf officer of Lighting Unlimited, CGO.
I think it's called the Peter Principle.
Okay.
What's that?
Describe that.
Peter Principle is you keep going up, up, up until you reach the point where you're totally incompetent.
Well, you're not there yet. I can tell, Scott. But how did you tell us a little bit about the background? I mean, Mike read a little bio, but how did you start lighting, or why did you start Lighting Unlimited? How all that? Give us a story.
I was in the electrical supply business in Chicago, and I moved to Arizona in '79 and started another electrical supply company. And lighting was about 10% of our business, and I always enjoyed it. So when we sold the company in '89, I started Lighting Unlimited and went 100% lighting.
And you guys don't have any electrical distribution right now? You don't do anything that you used to do when you did Lighting Unlimited?
Really didn't up until about 3 years ago. Cory started taking on some lines that I hadn't seen in 30 years. We did outlets and started with batteries and smoke detectors and items like that. More impulse items at our counters.
Tools.
How do you, yeah, Cory, how do you feel about that? Is that a whole different animal than lighting?
No, it's just another widget. So it's just no different than, it's the contractor's already buying them somewhere. It's just another part. So it's just an add-on sale.
And it's worked pretty well so far. There's not much you have to learn about it. You can just say, "Hey, take this thing and get out of here."
Right. Here's a screwdriver. Here's a wall plate. Here's a GFI. I mean, it's not going to go bad. It's just it's just a little widget. So.
Nice.
It's that impulse buy on the counter. You guys are so counter strong. Was it always that way, Scott? Did you start off with the counters?
Yeah, when I was in the electrical supply business, our counter was always very successful. So when I went into the lighting business, I kind of took that with, and now our counters are like 2/3 of our business. Projects and are the other third. But it really helped our business, and having a different profit center made a lot of sense.
When
Other than outside salespeople.
Other than outside
salespeople.
We used to have MRO where the guy would come and buy a case of T8 light bulbs or a 10 ballast or whatever every month, right? So that's kind of gone away with all the retrofits. So we see it as our MRO, the counter. So the contractors come and they find the projects, and every month they're buying, they're finding new projects. So that's become our MRO because MRO has kind of disappeared. So now our new MRO is the counter because they're every month,
I kind of copied your counter model. And, what was interesting is that as I followed that business, what I noticed was that my inventory had to go way up. I had to have way more stuff in stock. And then when we visited you guys, I don't know if it was 3 or 4 years ago, I noticed like how important inventory is to your business as opposed to Greg and I's, where we, Greg, you do an inventory once a year, I believe, in June.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah,
2 days.
Whereas I'm constantly doing inventory now, all the time. And you guys have 4 branches. How important is inventory to your business model?
It's essential. I mean, we have probably over $1 million in inventory, and it's constantly, we're constantly cycle counting. I think our guys cycle count every day. So it's, it's the lifeblood of the business. Whoever has the inventory gets the sales.
And so when you guys are looking at light bulbs, are you stocking all kinds of strange optical lamps and microscope lamps, or is it all day-to-day lighting products?
We used to do a lot more of that. Now we're more on the bread and butter type products.
Because that's where my thing. Let me just jump in here because I'm curious about my own counter as COVID ends. Like my whole counter program with the shit. Pardon my language there, but with the with COVID-19, it totally dismantled it all of a sudden like that. But I was finding that I had to stock a lot of strange SKUs that normally I would special order. And so what you're saying is you're moving away from some of those, JDFs and those weird ANSI codes and just, the stuff that people want to walk in and buy, tubes and ballasts and things like that.
Yeah, correct. So we have, I don't know if you look at a pie chart, there's the A, B, C, D items, right? So we're trying to heavily increase our A items and decrease our, C, D, and X or, non-stock items.
And so with this counter business, you have a contractor that comes in and their purchases is a project. Are they expecting that you have the items that they need, or they give you the general idea and you say, well, we can use this because that's what we have in stock? Is that how it's working for you guys?
Well, if we do a project, they'll bring their plans in and we'll do a takeoff for them. But if it's just a small contractor coming to the counter, they expect us to have most of it, maybe not all of it, but that's why they come to us, because our inventory is so vast.
Also, there's a lot of stocking reps in Arizona. So, our reps have large warehouses. So if they need something today or tomorrow, we just send them to the rep and they go pick it up. So
Mm.
we have virtual warehouses as well.
Have you found those are pretty accurate inventory counts? I mean, are you using it as an extension of your business in a way? You say, we've got 1,000 here. I know they've got 10,000 there. We've got 11,000. Is that kind of how you pitch it to people?
Yep. If you want it today, go get it. Otherwise, we can order it from XYZ manufacturer. It'll be here in 2 or 3 days. But if you want it today, this guy's got 1,000 over here, 10,000 or whatever.
That's why, of all the members of Nailed, Lighting Unlimited was always the most education keen. And I think it stems directly from how important education is to the counter sale. See, when you have a call-in customer, there seems to be more time to sort out the problem or to ask someone else in your office. But if you have a lineup at your counter, you got to deal with that person right now. And that person dealing with them has to be able to solve the problem that the customer has. And oftentimes you've described it to me as a lot of landscape lighting projects come in. People will walk in and your counter sales people have a lot of understanding of the different things involved in these various areas, whether that's a lighting retrofit or landscape lighting. Whereas if you came into Atlas and you asked for landscape lighting, you're going to get a lot of, hang on a second, Michael, Joe, there's someone talking crazy. So you guys have always been really keen on education. How much of that is taught through LS1 and our programs at Nailed, and how much of it is just time in the industry and having experience?
So everybody that's at the counter is required to have LS1 to be LS1 certified. So I think we have like 10 or 15 counter guys, something like that. And everybody is required to take LS1. So that's a requirement. And then we've created kind of like a tier system for time in the industry. So there's certain benchmarks they have to meet we have, I think, 4 tiers. So a tier 1 is just some guy that walks in off the street. They start off at tier 0. To get to tier 1, they have to pass LS1, go through a vendor training or something. They have to be able to lay out a landscape lighting job or lay out a tape lighting job or something. Then to get to the next tier, they have to be able to identify a retrofit opportunity or identify some sort of opportunity beyond what their current capability is, and they have to be they can't complete that opportunity by themselves. They need somebody to help them. Then I think for tier 3, they're able to identify the opportunity, but they need a little bit of help. And then a tier 4 is like, we call it like a counter pro or like a lighting pro basically, and they can take the job from soup to nuts. They know how to complete the job completely. So it's a way for our counter to progress and have different benchmarks and tiers as they grow to get stronger and stronger.
I absolutely love that. You just described like the various levels of my employees perfectly in an accurate, structured format. Do you want to work for Atlas? No.
Yeah, my lighting control suck. Hey,
Oh man.
So, Scott, I assume you're a tier 4 then?
5.
5. You're above it all. Going back to kind of when you started, so 1989, and you have 4 locations now. That's right.
Yeah.
When did you open your second location?
It's probably about 6 years after we opened. I mean, it took a while to get up to a certain point where we could have enough people to staff a second branch. But I would say we haven't opened up a new branch. But Cory, what would you say? 15 years we've had them? Something like that. And when the counter started out, we had a lot of retail business. And the way we started that was we had Home Depot help us. We would go over and give them flyers about our company to all the Home Depots and Lowe's, and they carried the A items only, and we carried the B, C, and D items. And when when they didn't have something that the customer wanted, they sent them to one of our branches. And then LEDs came out, and having the B, C, and D items really didn't matter as much. So we kind of got away from the retail and went to the small to medium-sized contractors. And that's how our counters really grew.
It's almost
And
like Lighting
yeah,
Unlimited is like people are these contractors are almost using you as a strategic resource for their businesses as a lighting experts, as people that have stock. It's almost like I noticed the same thing as I grew my counter business, where the electricians would be coming in, and instead of just buying stuff, they wanted to know the solution to the problem that they were facing with their client. And that drives a lot of revenue, because those guys will come in and they'll spend $10,000 right there on the counter if you have the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
it's a good business if you have the people on the counter that can manage it. Um, yeah, I mean, I really love the model. Like in the age when everyone's going digital, there seems to be a vacuum there, especially in the lighting business, where the electrical guys are not as good, can't do that, and they're definitely you can develop a business where you have contractors coming in and making big orders right there with their credit cards on
Mm-hmm.
the counter. I love the model. Um, Greg, keep going, but you have a list of
yeah,
questions. I just fly by
I've got.
night. And
That's right. I am too. But the residential versus commercial, what percent of your business is residential?
It's significantly. We put in, actually, we've tried to discourage the residential from coming to our counters. Actually, we implemented about 2 years ago. We hired a CFO that's now our CEO, and he had some really good distribution ideas, and we implemented a $25 minimum for retail customers, because we did an analysis of our Scottsdale store, and we saw that we did 10 transactions a day under $10, and it was
hmm,
killing our cost per sale. So we implemented a $25 minimum order, and it's weeded out a lot of the retail customers, and it's allowed our counter guys to focus on the small to mid-sized contractors. And what we realized is a lot of our small to mid-sized contractors were using us for, we call it like the booty call business. They'd come to us and they basically use us for our knowledge, buy the weird application that they needed, and then they'd never use us again. And what we found is that
hmm.
if our counter guys have more time to spend with those contractors, we won't be a booty call. We'll say, hey, why don't you use this for your regular business? And instead of them going to the electrical supply house for their day-to-day light bulbs, now they're coming to us for their day-to-day light bulbs. So
Hmm.
it's been a huge upgrade for us.
You might have answered it right there, but did you guys ever consider doing a residential showroom style decorative fixtures or anything like that with the business like it is in Arizona?
In Chicago, we had a fixture showroom, and I just never really wanted to get involved with that.
Yep.
You'd have hundreds and hundreds of fixtures on the ceiling, and the people would come in and they wouldn't even look at the ceiling. They said, "Show me your books." They wanted to
Mm.
look in catalogs. Of course, you don't do that today, but
Mm.
that's the way it was back then. They wanted to pick it out of a catalog, and it just took a lot of time. And
Yep.
we felt that concentrating on the contractors would be much more profitable.
Mm.
Good. And Cory, you touched on it, but let's dive into it a little. So you guys are the owners of the company, Scott and Cory, but you're not the CEO. Tell us about how that went down.
So let's see. So I started getting into the management with Scott maybe 8 or 9 years ago, and we grew the company maybe 2 or 3 times the size. And we were very sales heavy and very lacking on operations. And so we kind of had an inverted pyramid structure where everybody was reporting to me. And it wasn't really working very well because I had 30 people reporting to me, and it was very difficult to manage. So I tried to bring in some people, and it didn't really work out. And so over time, I met this other gentleman, and he's helped us kind of add some structure to our company. And now we have kind of like a top-down pyramid structure. And now when I'm not very good dealing with the employees. So I'll tell them, hey, you're doing a great job, everything's going well, and they'll walk out of there and say, oh, he just said I was terrible. I don't know what, I don't know. And then this other guy will walk in there and say, you guys are terrible. you need to improve this and this, and they'll say, great, oh my God, I'll run through walls for you, sir, and I'll do, whatever you need.
Yeah,
And
how
it's
the
just,
hell does that work? I need to figure out that secret because like I don't understand that. Like that is such a mystery. Is it people's intelligence? Are they like I can't get it through my head. Is it a body language thing? Like I don't understand how some people can do that. I really don't.
I just don't have I don't have that gene right now, I guess. And so this guy comes in and he adds professionalism to us that we don't offer, I guess. And it seemed to been work out really well so far.
Well,
Yeah.
I think the Achilles heel is that like I know you quite well. We've spent a lot of time socially with one another, and you're quite frank and curt, Cory.
Sure.
And I love that. Like Greg and I, that's what we love about you. It's like you're just going to call it like you see it. But I think with employees, a lot of people can't handle that level of frankness, quite frankly. And that's what I love about Cory, Greg, is when I talk to Cory, he'll say that's really stupid. Like he'll tell you that right to your face, or that. Guess what? That person's a moron, Michael. That's the problem. It's not. You're not doing a bad job. That person's a moron. And like, but I think I'm very similar to Cory, and I share that frankness. And I think it turns people off. They don't really want to know the truth. They just want to know what to do. And some people are very good at avoiding the frankness and just telling people what to do. And I think that's where it comes off to you is like, well, I was being so honest with the guy and trying to tell him what's good, but then he walks out depressed. But this guy, constructively criticism is so successful that the guy walks out beaming, and I don't get it. I think it's got to do with the curtness and the frankness that
100%. That's why we did it. I mean, we identified it, and we know it's an issue I got to work on.
I don't think it's an issue. I think it's just your best and worst quality. It's one of those things that you can't really change. It's who you are, and it's what makes you great and makes you bad human resources manager.
My aunt calls it a blurting problem. I have a blurting problem.
But I love your blurting problem. That's why I love hanging out with you. It's like, Cory, we're having this problem with this person. Da, 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 da. Dude, she's a moron. Oh, okay. Thanks, Ben. Cory just summed it up.
So, Scott, how do you feel about the structure and how you've seen it change since you started it?
Well, we definitely needed help on our infrastructure, but I've been taking a lesser position with the company. Cory's really running the company and making all decisions. And if he wants my opinion, he asks me. But he's done a great job. So, I get to do what I like to do, which is play golf and a few other things. And it gives me the time. I still come in every day. I'm here when he needs me, and it's worked out great.
Now, when you talk about infrastructure, which is interesting, you're talking about the infrastructure of the human resources.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's such a brilliant description of it. Like that's what it is. It's actually an infrastructure of people. I love that,
Sure.
Greg.
We called it. We built a house of cards on no foundation, or I did, and then we brought in this manager. His name's Todd, and we've kind of built a foundation, and now we're kind of building a house on that foundation. It seemed to really help dramatically. Having people that report to other people as opposed to just going straight to the top has been very helpful for us.
And you've told me this story, Cory, but as much as you can and want to share, how did you find this person, and what did they started as something else, I believe, and they became the CEO. So give us how that went down.
So we, as of I think like 10 years ago, we were completely on handwritten paper tickets. So somebody would come to our store and we'd handwrite the sales order on a piece of paper, double-sided carbon paper. And then we would look up the price in the catalog. We'd find the price. Then you'd, write it out, get the calculator out, calculate the tax, calculate how many it is, give the guy the double-sided sheet of paper. And then the guy would drive from our Scottsdale store to all of our other stores, pick up the tickets, and then he'd type it up in the computer. So that was the structure, I think, 10 or 12 years ago. and we bought this software package called DDI Systems, or Inform is the package, and it's basically we computerized the company. So I was at the software convention about 4 years ago. I met this guy, and we were having, our books were kind of antiquated, and so he said, "Hey, I need some, if you ever need help with your books, I'm a part-time CFO. I work for this other company. If you need any help, I'd love to help you out." And so I took him up on the offer, 6 months later, and he came in and was a part-time CFO, and he helped clean up our books, clean up our, how our stuff was going. I then was trying to put in a COO, or an operations manager, and it didn't really work out. And he said, "Hey, I have some COO experience." I said, "Great, we need that." And then, kind of spiraled from there. So.
What's always struck me about Scott and then also about Cory is they have what of all the people, Scott, I've ever met in business, okay? They have the most humility. Like every time I meet Scott at a conference or Cory at a conference, they're always saying, "I have this problem. I'm not doing this well. I want to be better at this." And to be honest with you, it's usually the opposite at most conventions that I go to with Nailed, where I'm the best at this, don't you know, whatever. But Scott and Cory were always so interested in solving their problems. And I think that's one of the secrets to success is like just recognizing that you have a problem and that you need to fix it and that you're not so good. And this is where I'm good at and I'm not good here. And I need other people to do this for me. I think that's like such great leadership. And I'm not trying to kiss your asses, but I'm just saying that I noticed that a lot of people go to these conventions and brag. And I always found Scott and Cory at the conventions to solve their problems. I don't know what you think about that, Greg. It's unique to them.
Oh yeah, 100%. You summed it up perfectly. It is always that way. You guys have a great business. You have an awesome facility. We've seen it. I haven't seen your new one, but even before that, and to hear you guys are always like, "I'm trying to figure this out." That's great, and that is inspiring to other business owners too, to kind of make us relook and think about what we're doing. And we all have our downfalls too, and we just have to admit it, and work on it, and try to get better. Learn from these guys how to do it. So, Cory, what's your role now? What are you primarily doing?
So right now I'm doing accounting, actually, because we can't find people. So no, I'm doing. I'm actually doing just working on our sales department right now. So
Sure.
that's kind of my focus. We just got this national contract of privatized Army lodging bases. So it's like 18 bases across the country, and so we have a gentleman that works for us actually in Nashville, and so I'm working with him to kind of grow that opportunity. So like traveling to these Army bases, and every they have like 40,000 houses across the country, and every year they're redoing the houses and upgrading the lodging. So we're trying to expand that market, basically.
That's great. Moving out of Arizona somewhat then, huh?
Just with this customer. So
Yeah.
Just with that one.
I can't believe that we're already coming up on 30 minutes. And there's something else. I know a lot of Nailed members kind of face the same issue, and that is succession. Scott, was Cory brought in to take over the company when he first started? Was that your vision, or did it just happen on its own?
Probably a little of both. I mean, he came in, obviously, he wanted to make his career in lighting. He had worked in the fiber optics area for about 3 or 4 years after college, and then he came in, and yes, he excelled. Obviously, smart kid, and uh, the succession was a problem for me, not for him. The problem was my ego didn't want to let go of anything, any management or anything like that. And he pushed and pushed and pushed, and I came to the realization that I wasn't the future of the company, he was.
Hmm.
And it took a while for me to realize that. And so I kept giving him more and more. He kept asking for more and more. And we became partners about, what would you say, Cory, 10 years ago, 8 years ago, something like that?
eight, something like that.
8 years ago, and it's worked out well for both of us.
Talk to me a little bit, Cory, about the friction. So there's obviously, we all have an ego, especially as business owners, and sometimes we can't see where we're, maybe crowding others out. Was there any friction between you and Scott? I'm not talking about screaming and yelling across the office, which does happen, by the way, in some family businesses. Let's not kid ourselves. Okay. But what was the friction like, and how did you sort of de-escalate that, but then also continue to push?
Yeah, there's definitely friction. How did I de-escalate it? Obviously, we love and respect each other. He built a great company, and I respect what he did. But as he's gotten older, his desire to do things has lessened. But he still, he's got those gray hairs for a reason. So he knows. Every once in a while he pulls something out, and it just pisses me off because he's like he knows it. It's just like, how the hell did he know that? But as far as de-escalating or things like that, we actually had a business consultant you guys know that's helped us a ton. Is this gentleman Steve Epner? He's helped kind of open up both of our eyes to each other's position and helped us work through a lot of our. He's kind of like a therapist for us, I guess, or he's been a business coach and helped us a ton over the last 10 years.
And so was there a point at which there was a blowout at, I was going to say Easter, but at Passover, was there a family screaming match or something like that characterized the finish or something like that?
Yeah, my mother has always been. She had the one time we had a blowout. She had a whiteboard session. She was very proud of herself. She brought out a whiteboard because she was a school teacher, and she put out a whiteboard and said, "All right, Cory, you're responsible for this. Scott, you're responsible for this." A little T chart, and she was. That was probably the only real blowout we had. The rest has been pretty cordial. I mean, there's obviously the day-to-day father-son stuff, but yeah, she's the moderator. She's actually his boss, so I have if I have to overrule him, I call her. So.
Well, I love the fact that your mom came in, sat you down, drew a line, and then put two headings under it and said, okay, well, who's doing what? It's interesting how the dynamic of family businesses. Cory, do you have any final thoughts for the Get a Grip on Lighting listeners, and in particular the nailed distributors out there that are listening to this?
Do the LS1. It's been a great program for us. It's been extremely helpful for us. I think as a company, we've probably put 40 people through it, probably more. And we continue to use it to this day, and do the LS Evolve, and
yeah, LS Evolve, baby, that's what you need. Scott, any more thoughts for the listeners?
I would say to any distributor who's not a member of NAILD, they should join. I've been a member for like 25 years ish, and I've never gone to a convention where I didn't bring something back that I could use in the business. Some have been big, and a few have just been little changes, but it's made a big difference. Plus all the people that I met that are my friends for years, and I would recommend everyone joining NAILD.
Amen to that. Folks, Greg, if you made it to the end here, we want to thank Scott and Cory. And what do we want to do here, Greg? I think we've got to talk about light efficient design. That's right. LED-LLC.com. I love those guys. Always coming up with something creative and new that nobody else has, Greg Eric. And that's the truth.
That's right. And especially from a lighting company that you know and trust, they have EV chargers now. So if you're a lighting distributor and you are thinking about getting into it, you definitely need to check that out, because they are partnering with distribution only. They're not selling it direct. They make it in the U.S., quick shipping, level 2 charger, works with everything, and you can sell an additional revenue stream for your customers.
And all those contractors out there, Lighting Unlimited has 65 of these in stock at their. I'm just joking. I don't know how that's all going to work. Maybe we're going to be stocking them on our counters at some point. And of course, Light Efficient Design is a proud member of the National Association of Innovative Lighting Distributors, as all three of us are, or well, there's four of us here, but three companies. And we'd like to invite you guys to join. If you're a lighting distributor, like this is the place to be. You got to join up. And if you're an electrical distributor who's lighting heavy, come on, get in here. So that means that you have a counter, an order desk, and you stock lighting products in your warehouse. Those are the key conditions to being a member of NAILD. And of course, come to our convention, September 13th, Dallas Market Center. Be there or be square. And if you've made it this far, all the way to the end of the Get a Grip on Lighting podcast, we're going to send nothing but love out to you people. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.